All right, so the first weapon we're going to test out is going to be the Primal Staff. This was the one that lets you turn into a bear. I'm just going to go through them in the order that I have them at inventory here. So let's take a look at the Qs first. I assume that these Qs are going to transfer over to all of them, yeah. So the Qs and Ws are all actually the same. The abilities that are different on each weapon are the ones after you transform. And you can actually see the different abilities that you get on each one after you transform. So the Qs and Ws are all going to be the same throughout them. So let's start with Q1. So it's Unstable Projectile. Shoot a projectile of unstable energy at target enemy, dealing 481 damage to the target and shattering in a cone behind them. Deals 267 magical damage to all enemies hit by the cone. Applies 1 shift change on you. Okay. Shift charges allow you to transform into and empower the abilities of your shape. Okay. So we're seeing here that in order to transform, you have to... How many shift charges do you need? How many shift charges do you need to transform? All right, we'll figure that out as we go. Let's just start shooting some Qs. So this is the first Q that we got. Okay. Fairly simple, very short cooldown. I see I'm getting the charges from using it. Fairly short cooldown. Nice little poke skill. It does have a channel time, a cast time allocated to it. So if you have something like, say, a pork omelet, let's equip the pork omelet now. Cast time goes down to 0.6 seconds. Feels a little bit smoother, but it's still pretty long. Like, you're still stuck here for quite some time. Something like, say, a Scholar's Robe or something else that gives you cast time will make this feel much nicer if you're using it as a primary skill. Let's check out the next Q. I'm gonna drink some tea in the process here. All right, so we got Reality Crack. Okay. Combine up to 2 abilities. The combo resets after 5 seconds. The first Reality Crack caused a brief crack in reality into the targeted direction, dealing 535 magical damage to all enemies hit. Hitting at least 1 enemy will apply 1 shift charge on you and continue the combo. Second, Reality Fissure. Create a fissure in reality into the targeted direction, dealing 916 magical damage to all enemies hit. Hitting at least 1 enemy will apply 2 shift charge on you and continue the combo. Shift charge allow you to transform. Okay. Interesting. Let's see what this looks like. Let's find an enemy here. Alright, so this is the second Q. Alright, what's the range on that? Range is 18 meters. This is a crazy long Q ability. I can combo it? I guess that would be the combo. So the first one's Reality Crack and the second one's a Fissure. So this is the crack, and then this is the fissure. And you can see the ability keeps going after you've landed the crack. You have what seems to be about 3 seconds to cast the fissure. That's a very far range on a Q. Very far range on a Q. It does have a small cast time, but it does a lot of damage. And it combos, and if you hit it, you get to the second cast, and it seems pretty powerful, honestly. Interesting. All right, let's look at the third Q here. So we're looking at Q3 now. Adapting Matter. Unleash unstable energy at the target position, dealing 468 magical damage to enemy. Applies a shield to yourself and up to 3 allies. That absorbs 983 damage for 1.5 seconds. And again, hitting at least 1 enemy will apply 1 shift charge on you. I still haven't really figured out what the shift charge means here. So this is an ability that you can cast on an enemy or yourself. Yes, you can cast it on yourself to get the shield portion, or you can cast it on an enemy to deal damage. Let's see, where's an enemy here? Okay. And it has a cooldown of 5 seconds. That's after pork omelet, so it starts at like 5.5 seconds. No cast time on this one. What if I'm standing beside an enemy? Do we get the shield and the damage? No. I can't cast it on both of us. I can cast it on both of us. I can get the shield and the damage if I'm close enough. Interesting. You do get both. Interesting. Okay. I could see that being very useful in group situations. Definitely intended as the more support slash tanky Q, I assume. Now let's look at Q4. Cast a shockwave in front of you, dealing 903 magical damage. Decrease damage resistances by 7 for 6 seconds. Stacks up to 3 times. So this is a very small pierce. It does damage and a very small pierce. I suppose if you get all 3 stacks, you are increasing damage resistance by 21 for 6 seconds. It's not too bad. We can't have too strong of a pierce in a Q, of course. But it is a bit of a pierce. Has a range of 10 meters and a 3-second cooldown. Alright, let's take a look here. So this is pulse shock here. Fairly short range. Fairly short range. It is a pierce. It is AoE. So if you're in a group, it's a small pierce for the group. So I would find it hard to pick that over Reality Crack, honestly. Because Reality Crack is AoE as well. It hits everyone that's in the same area. And it's on a much longer range and shorter cooldown. I get that this has a small pierce to it, but I feel like I would just want to have Reality Crack most of the time. Right? Alright, let's start taking a look at the W's on the Shapeshifter weapons. W1 is called Distortion. Conjure a cloud of distorted reality within a 4-meter radius at the targeted location, lasting 3 seconds. Deals 535 magical damage every 0.75 seconds. Also slows all enemies within it by 20%. Each enemy hit applies 1 shift charge on you up to 2. Okay. And what's the range on this guy? This is 12-meter range. Okay. Okay. I like it. It's kind of like adding a curse Q to the ground. It's not actually applying the damage to them, but it is applying a damage over time on that area. Lasting 3 seconds. It's dealing quite a bit of damage over that time as well. If someone is going to be stuck in a root or a stun during that duration, they're going to take quite a bit of damage. Q4 is wider, Q2 thin. But the range difference is kind of crazy. Like 18 meters range over 10 meters range. And a 1.6. I guess the cooldown ends up, I don't know. I just have a hard time thinking I would want to take this over this. Anyways, let's look at W2. Positional drift. Shoot out tendrils in the targeted direction, pulling up to 5 enemies towards you, rooting them for 3.3 seconds. Deals 568 magical damage to all enemies hit. Each enemy hit applies 1 shift charge on you up to 2 times. Up to 5 enemies? This is a hook that pulls up to 5 enemies? And what's the range on this? 12 meters. Ooh, that seems kind of powerful, doesn't it? A hook to pull up to 5 enemies? Let's see if I can get these guys clumped together that I can use on both of them. Ooh, that seems pretty strong. It also does damage, also applies a root. I could see that being very useful in group situations. I realize it seems a little bit underwhelming compared to the first W, but it seems very strong to me. All right, let's check out W3, Tether Shift. Attach a tether to a group member or enemy, lasting 7 seconds. Applies 1 shift charge on you. Group members have their damage resistances increased by 75 as long as they are connected. Recast the ability to activate the tether. If it is attached to an enemy, you will dash towards them. If it is attached to a group member, you will pull them towards you. Apply a shield on the pulled group member that absorbs 702 damage for 1.5 seconds. Wow. That's that is an interesting W. Let's take a look at it. So you have to cast it twice to dash towards them. Okay. So I got it once and it lasts up to 7 seconds. I can kind of just have it lingering. How far does it break at? It breaks it pretty far. So the range is 13 meters. But I feel like I can go up to, I want to say 17 meters there. Okay, we got that sitting there, and then if we recast, it launches us to them. Interesting. I don't have a group member out here to test out the other portion where it pulls a member towards me, but has their damages increased by 75 as long as they're connected. So damage increased by 75 is a long time, honestly. All right. That is an interesting... It also gets a shield on them as well. Okay. Okay. Let's look at W4. Polymorph. Shoot an enemy orb. Shoot an energy orb in the target direction, transforming the first unmounted, not transformed player into a helpless animal for 5 seconds. I feel like we've seen that in a game before. I don't know what game it is, but I feel like I've seen that ability in a game before. The affected player cannot be transformed again for 5 seconds. Hitting a mob will decrease their max and current health by 15% for 5 seconds instead. So when it says the affected player cannot be transformed again for 5 seconds, does that mean after he comes out of animal form or from the start of when it's cast? Because if it's from when it's first cast, he could be stuck in there the whole time. Seems kind of short. I mean, 5 seconds is not bad. Orb also explodes on impact, dealing 736 magical damage in 4-meter radius. All right, let's take a look. Oh. I didn't hit him? What? Okay. Now we can't see what it looks like on an enemy. I don't have an enemy available out here. All I have is mobs to test it on. That doesn't seem like the easiest to hit on a target that's going to try to avoid it. What do they call them? Skill shots. I feel like I aimed the first time. Alright, so that's all the Qs and Ws that we have on the Shapeshifter weapons. Honestly, I feel like the Qs and Ws cover so many bases. There is damage abilities, there are support abilities, there's abilities that pull, there's abilities that shield. Cover so many bases. I assume that the Shapeshifter keys are going to be pretty variable. They expect you to be able to do lots of different things with the different abilities, but wow, that's crazy. That is crazy. Now, all the passives that we have are the same. So I'm actually going to look at the passives here before we take the time to switch on to the E abilities and look at the actual shapeshifting. So the first passive is called Altered Beast. When transforming, you increase your max and current health by 2% for 5 seconds for each shift charge. Okay, so there's another play where the shift charges come into effect. If you have up to 5, you'd be getting 10% max and current health for 5 seconds. That seems pretty valuable. The second would be Intimidating Presence. Anytime one of your Q abilities hits an enemy, decrease their damage by 3% for 7 seconds. Stacks up to 3 times. It also increases your threat generation against mobs by 100%. Okay, so we have a situation where you could use shapeshifting as a tank through the threat generation. Also, anytime one of your Q abilities hits an enemy, is decreased your damage. So you're also reducing damage by up to 9% for 7 seconds. That seems pretty valuable. Innate Power. After dealing damage, apply 1 shift charge on you every 5 seconds for 30 seconds. Damage, apply 1 shift charge on you every 5 seconds for 30 seconds. So through looking at the Qs and Ws, most of the shift charges are gained through actually hitting people. This one says you only have to hit someone once, and then you're getting a shift charge every 5 seconds for 30 seconds. Interesting. I'm not entirely sure why you would need that. I guess in situations where you can't be using your abilities, that's very interesting. And the last passive is Rule Bender. After casting a W ability, increase your auto attack speed and cast speed by 30% for 5 seconds. Okay, so that's very cool because if we're looking at the... Which Q was it that had a decent cast time? Was it Reality Check? No, it's Unstable Projectile. So if we're able to use a W first, so let's say throw out the Polymorph W, now we can spam our Now we can spam our Qs a little bit. Yeah, those are some pretty quick Qs you're getting out there. Interesting. And like I said, if you have something else that's giving you cast speed, it makes it a little bit more reliable. But you can definitely spam out those unstable projectiles once you have that fourth passive on there. Very interesting. Max second damage reduction passive almost cancels out a beef stew. Damage reduction. Kind of, yeah. Kind of does. Dollar plus passive 4 is 0.33 second cast on the Q, no food. So with food, that gets down to like what? 0.2 seconds? Pretty good. You can spam that guy out quite a bit. Let's look for another miss so I can hop in to keep the same feel. You would go beef though, probably. Really? Everything else that requires cast time, you always just want to have the pork omelet. You sure you wouldn't just want pork omelet for more quick casting? Food effects have changed? Right, that's true. You don't think you'd be spamming this Q for damage, Minty? You wouldn't spam the Q for damage? E does more. Alright. Interesting. Wolf E slaps. Alright, we're going to take a look at our E's in a second here anyways. Alright, so now that we've gone through all the Q's, W's, and passives, let's start actually looking at the shapes that you transform into. So the first one is the Elder's Primal Staff, which makes you turn into this bear guy. The Spirit Bear transformation. Transform into a Spirit Bear for up to 30 seconds. This changes your abilities and stats. Your offensive is low, your defensive is high. Energy regeneration is very high. Interesting. Rage. While your health is below 50%, your damage and duration on your crowd control effects will increase by 20%. Also, when you switch, you get Q, Feral Bash, which says smash the ground, dealing 869 physical damage versus players, 1,000 physical damage versus mobs, increase your threat towards all mobs hit by 200. If at least one shift charge is active on you, the smash will consume it, stunning all enemies hit for 2.2 seconds. Wow, very interesting. And then you also get this W, which is the Wild Onslaught. Combine up to 2 abilities. The combo resets after 8 seconds. First, Wild Onslaught. Dash in target direction, knocking back all enemies you pass through by 4.9 meters. Deals 334 physical damage. Increases damage resistances by 68 for 5 seconds. So that's a pretty big pierce. And if you use the second ability, you get Roar, which is Unleash a Mighty Roar, dealing 869 physical damage versus players, 1337 physical damage versus mobs in a cone in front of you. Enemies hit will flee from you for 1.2 seconds. Makes you highest priority target for all mobs hit. So they are really trying to make this a PvE viable tanking weapon. They're really trying to make this a PvE viable tanking weapon. I would say the biggest complaint people have had about PvE tanking since I started playing this game is that mace is pretty much your only option. So this one is definitely providing you a ton of utility to be able to be a real tank. I scrolled down to see what stats they add, and I'm noticing you actually have all character stats are replaced by transformation stats. I was wondering if the bear weapon gave you any added health, and I'm noticing you just get max health 5002 when you transform. So this is actually crazy interesting. Insanely interesting. Alright, let's see if we can transform and see what this stuff looks like. Now I'm a bear. Okay, the Q is fairly slow, I would say. I don't have enough charges for the dash. I need, Well, I don't have enough charges for the dash. Okay, hold on. Let's get out of bear form. Let's switch back. Let's get some charges and then let's swap. That's an assload of base HP. You can be in cloth and transform basically into plate. So it would change into these stats no matter what gear I had on? it's not just doing the math that I'm in leather, switching it over. Just all your stats change. Okay. All right, let's get some charges, and then let's switch over to bear form here. And now I can use my W, which is a decent pierce. You can actually see the pierce lingering. I got the roar on the second half, which does big damage. That's very interesting. I actually really like the idea of using this as a tank weapon in group content. I could see this being very valuable. Having a knockback all enemies by 4 meters, dealing damage, piercing them, and then having another big damage W seems to make a lot of sense to me. I think this also is crazy strong in any sort of PvE context. It is definitely intended to be your tanking PvE weapon. All right, let's switch over to the tree. Let's switch over to the tree now. So the tree, the first Q that you get when you transform is Seedling's Bloom. Create a natural refuge with 3-meter radius at the targeted position, lasting 8 seconds. Deals 588 damage on impact. Allies within the refuge heal 23 health every 1 second. So you're getting 8 seconds of 23 health. So you're getting about, what is that, 170 healing over 8 seconds? That's not crazy. It does only have a cooldown of 2 seconds, though. So you could have a few of these out, I suppose. The W is Barbed Roots. Gather the energy of nature, becoming immune to damage while channeling for up to 3 seconds. Can't be interrupted, can be used while stunned or silenced. What? Slows by 35% all enemies within an 11-meter radius. Deals 300 damage every 0.7 seconds. And roots every 2 seconds for 5 seconds? What the? What is this? What the? All right, let's get some Q-sacks and see how that works. Okay, so now we're gonna transform. I am now the tree. I got the little seedling that I can throw out. You can have quite a few of these seedlings out as well. The seedlings also do damage on impact and heal everyone. Okay, let's get some more huge stacks and I can test out that that W. Okay. So I just become tree. I can't do anything, I just become tree. I'm immune to damage. I slow everyone. I deal damage. I root every 2 seconds. Okay. I just become tree. That's it. You're just tree. I can still use my Qs? Can I still use my Qs? Let me see. I didn't notice if I could use my Qs or not. I don't even have enough. How many charges do I need to use that W? Oh, I need 3 charges. Got it. Okay, become tree. And I get, oh, no, I can't. I can't throw out Qs if I'm tree. I think. Yeah, the E cooldown has a 4-second. And it lasts for 20 seconds. What's the root duration? The root duration says 5 seconds? I root for 5 seconds every 2 seconds? What? All right, so the tree is very interesting. Very interesting. When we were talking about which shape-shifting weapons I was the least interested, I think I said tree right off the bat. But it is incredibly, incredibly diverse. The only thing that I'm wondering is what abilities would make sense to pair with it. I mean, this one, obviously, you get a shield. You can be some sort of support. It doesn't offer enough healing to actually be a healer, as far as I can see. You're some sort of supporty, damagey guy. The tether shift? Wait, is it the tether shift? No. Positional drift, where you shoot out the tendrils, makes a ton of sense for this. Let me see if I can find a, yeah, let's get some charges here. 1, 2, give me more charges, please. Can you give me a charge? You can give me a charge. So I can actually pull someone close to me, switch to bear form, and then root them right away. So pairing it up with the positional drift that shoots out tendrils and then launching into the barbed roots ability, it's kind of crazy. One thing I will say about Albion is it doesn't tend to favor weapons or builds that are trying to do too many things. The best things tend to be something that focuses on one thing specifically. You're a damage healer, you're a tank, you're a healer. This one seems to mix a lot of different things together. And whether or not it's strong enough to be able to handle that is going to be the real test. I'm interested to see how this plays out. If this weapon does become something that falls in the meta, it can change the meta quite a bit. New ganking meta. I already predict the meta is going to be cloth casters pumping a massive damage, and then when they get engaged on, they just turn into a tank. Yeah, is that the intended purpose? Because it even says here that when you transform, you have 3,500 HP, you have a lot of armor, you have a lot of magical resist. What's my current armor at? Let's see. My current armor and magical resist are 72, but when I turn into a tree, I have 260 armor and magical resist. What the? What? Is that? That's absurd, right? Crazy. Like I said, I don't know if the tree is good enough as like a standalone healer. You're more of like an off healer support. Armor is on your gear. Oh, the armor. Oh, yeah, okay. So I'm at 259, but it just displays as 72%. Okay, I understand. I understand. Let's switch off of the tree. The tree is very confusing, very interesting. Let's go on to the Panther. So the Panther, the Q is Sinister Swipes, combine up to 2 abilities. The combo resets after 3 seconds. First and second swipe, charge through the targeted enemy, dealing 600 damage. Consuming 2 shift charges lets you continue the combo. Charge through the target enemy, dealing 600 damage. Additionally, deal 25% of the target's missing health as true damage. 40% of the target's missing health as physical damage versus mobs. Set your cooldown of your transformation to 15 seconds. Wow, that is a strong Q. That is a strong Q. Now the W is Pounce. Leap towards target position, dealing 565 physical damage versus players, 840 damage versus mobs. Hitting an enemy player will reduce the cooldown of this ability by 50%. So it starts at 8 seconds and it goes down to 4 seconds if you hit someone. All right. That's a lot to take in. The passive 2, perma invis. What? Hover over your E. Oh, I didn't even see there is an. Did the tree have this as well? It does. The tree has a passive as well. Increase the max and current health of up to 20 allies in 11 meters by 10%. Okay. So the passive of the Panther, if no enemies are within a 9-meter radius around you for 1 second, you will turn invisible to players. Reduce your movement speed by 30%. While invisible, enemies within a 25-meter radius will be alerted. What the heck? You're just invisible if you're in the animal form? If no players around you? Yeah, I'm just invisible. Wow. Okay. Okay. All right, let's take a look at how these abilities look. I feel like this one's a little bit more straightforward with how they look. Okay. Q. The swipey guy. And W is a pounce. The abilities are a lot more straightforward. The thing that I would say I'm most surprised about is I was expecting the Q ability to be something that you aimed, but actually cast on a targeted enemy. So you just have to select an enemy and cast it on them. I expected it to be something that was aimed. So that also makes it only single target as opposed to AoE. Doesn't this one have some sinky kite build? I think the Panther can be pretty stinky in general. It seems very mobile. You get a free invis built into it that pretty much goes anytime. Invisible for 12 seconds with like 0.1 second period. You're visible. You can keep eating over and over. You can use your armor abilities while transformed, or does it untransform you? I think you can. Right? Good question. No, you can't use anything other than your animal abilities once you transform. You have to use armor before going into animal. Base movement speed on Panther is 6.5 compared to normal 5.5. Alright. The Panther seems absurd for solo content. Seems absurd for 1v1 content, open world. It seems crazy. I'm curious to see how much it'll get used in the meta, but to me this seems crazy. Use Mistwalker and then transform. Yeah, I'm still no, it canceled it actually. Let's check out the next weapon. Next weapon is the Blood Moon Staff. This is the werewolf one. I would say this is probably the one that I was most excited to look at, in all honesty. The Q is Tear Open. Tear apart everything in a cone in front of you, dealing 820 physical damage to all enemies hit. If at least one shift charge is active on you, the ability will consume it, creating a blood pool behind the first enemy. Entering the blood pool will consume it, healing you for 107 health. Increase your move speed by 50% for 3 seconds. Oh my gosh. 50% move speed for 3 seconds and a heal on your Q. Okay. The W is Rip Through. Dash through target enemy, landing 3 meters behind them. Deals 1,000 damage to enemy pass through. Increases your attack damage by 60% for 4 seconds. Q is on a 2-second cooldown. E is on the W is on a 5-second cooldown. These are insane. These what? Okay, let's take a look. Okay. The blood pool will heal me and make me faster. Crazy. Crazy. Let's take a look at the W better. That's the dash. That's the move speed. The werewolf is a hyper assassin. He is going to be very mobile. He is going to do a lot of damage. He's going to heal a ton in the process. The werewolf is a crazy assassin. Crazy strong assassin. You also get the passive Bloody Roar. Whenever you deal damage, till 10% of the health of the enemy has lost. What the heck? So not only do you get the heal from the Q, you also get a heal that whenever you deal damage, you steal 10% of the health the enemy has lost. Oh my gosh. This is going to be crazy. I expect the werewolf to be everywhere. We're going to see the werewolf in every content. Pair that with lifesteal food. I mean, you can also have lifesteal abilities too. You could have a Hellion jacket. You could have a Merc jacket. You can have healing pots as well. There's no reason you can't have healing pots. That is crazy. All lethal content is just going to be shapeshifters versus shapeshifters. I have the feeling that you're gonna see werewolves everywhere. I think you're gonna see werewolves in the Mists, the Corrupteds. I think you're gonna see werewolves absolutely everywhere. So this is my top pick right now. The Blood Moon Staff, I think, is my top pick right now. What do we got next? We got the Hellspawn. So this is the Imp guy. The Q will be the Fire Flash Orb. Shoot a Hellfire Orb in the target direction, burning through all enemies. Deals 1,000 damage to all enemy hit. If at least one shape charges are active on you, recast the ability, consume them, and detonate the orb, dealing 1,500 damage to all enemies in a 4-meter radius. Teleports you to the explosion. Increases the cooldown to 6 seconds. What? Release a Hellfire Barrage at the targeted enemy, slowing yourself by 30% while channeling for up to 3 seconds. Deals 226 magical damage every 2 seconds. Alright, we need to find a bigger enemy for me to test these ones on. I need a bigger enemy, because these guys are just going to get absolutely deleted. Alright. Time to become Imp. I'm now Imp. Q. Okay. The Q is interesting. So you shoot at the orb. Does big damage, and then you can recast it to make it explode. And in doing so, you teleport yourself to a location. That does seem like a dangerous thing to do as a damage dealer, to teleport yourself to location. But it's doing so much damage, it might not matter. Now let's try out the W. That guy died too quick for us really to see what it looks like, honestly. Maybe the fact that I brought out a giant set of this weapon is making it a little bit harder to test it out. I want to see what this barrage looks like. I mean, this is essentially bolt caster you can move, isn't it? W is essentially a bolt caster that you can move. It slows you by 30%, but you're still moving. 12-meter range. Seems pretty nice. You also get the passive, which is when your health would drop to 0, you prevent dying and heal yourself over 3.5 seconds based on the amount of shift charges on you. What? When your health would drop to 0, you prevent dying and heal yourself over 3.5 seconds based on the amount of shift charges. What? What kind of passive is that? You just don't die? What? Alright, so this is crazy. This is crazy. It does seem like this does a ton of damage, and you also just get to revive yourself. Now, what if you pair that with other items that allow you to not die? So things like, say, the Mistwalker Hood, which lets you live for 6 seconds. What is the cooldown on this? Is the cooldown only 7 seconds? Do you get the passive every time you have the cooldown? 1 minute. Where do you see one? Oh. Oh, okay. So if you don't die, if you use the prevent dying, it consumes all your shift charges, and the shape's cooldown is increased to 1 minute. Okay. So if you don't die, you're stuck in human form for up to a minute before you can transform. A minute is a short time for a cooldown that lets you not die. I see this being played in a ranged damage dealer situation. I think spamming the Q in group content seems fine. Using the W every once in a while. I also see this in solo content though as well. Something like a corrupted dungeon setting. Because what that means is that if you go down, you don't die. So you could essentially go in there and blow yourself up and every minute just not die. That seems very strong to me. I got a lot of questions about the balancing of this of the Imp Shapeshifter. I think that will be kind of nuts. Let's move on to the next one. We got the Golem next. So the Golem for the Q has Boulder Crash. Throw a boulder. Inconsistent spelling there. Boulder with a U and then boulder without the U. Throw a boulder at target position, dealing 893 physical damage in 3.5 meter radius. Stuns for 3 seconds. That's a 4-second cooldown as well. So 4-second cooldown for a 3-second stun. It does have a long cast time though. Combine up to 2 abilities. The combo resets after 4 seconds. Shift the ground, creating a stone wall in a cone in front of you, which knockbacks enemies by 2 meters. Pulls all enemies between you and the wall towards you. Deals 400 damage, 1,000 damage versus mobs pulled. Makes you the highest priority target for mobs pulled. Second, Tectonic Slam. Slam the ground, dealing 857 physical damage in a 6 meter radius. Throws all enemies hit into air for 0.6 seconds. Creates a rune lasting 5 seconds, which decreases max and current health of all enemies within by 15%. All right, and then you get the passive, which is Giant Consumption. Grants immunity to all force movement effects. Increase your max and current health and damage based on the amount of shift charges on you. With 1 charge, that's 10%. With 5 charges, that's 30%. When you're transformed, you're also getting 5,500 HP. So does that mean, let's test that out first. Does that mean if I have 5 charges, I'm going up to an insane HP? Kind of think it does, doesn't it? So we got 5 charges. I transform. I've got 7,700 HP. Of course. Why wouldn't I? That wall ability is very cool looking. And then the stomp afterwards is very interesting as well. On my 7,000 HP rock golem. What the heck? You lose the max HP as you use charges. Okay. Okay. Let's see. I transform. Yeah, as you lose charges, you do lose HP. That is disgusting. You've got 7,700 HP on this rock golem. What situations do I think this is good for? I mean, I could definitely see this being used in ZVZs. The knockback wall, you effectively can be a small bedrock mace while you have a big stun. You have a lot of max and current health and also more damage because of your charges. Interesting. Interesting. I don't know how that's going to fare in smaller content. Being like just that one guy that can't die doesn't necessarily help your group that much. So if you don't use any abilities, you can just tank and be healed. Tooltips are so big, they barely fit on the screen. Yeah, the tooltips on all of these abilities are kind of crazy, which also means deciphering what they mean and how they're going to be used makes it a lot more complicated. So next one is Light Caller. This is the big Alpha Eagle boy. Q is Piercing Light. Shoot a beam in the target direction, dealing 949 damage to all enemies hit. Enemies marked by Eagle's mark cause an explosion in a 5 meter radius that deals an additional 672 magical damage. If at least 1 shift charge is active on you, the beam will consume it, reducing its cooldown by 60%. Wow. And the cooldown is only 5 seconds to start with, so reducing it by 60% means you're getting like a 2-second cooldown. Well, even less if you have food going, right? You're not? Yeah, even less. So 4 seconds, reducing it to 60%, you're down to like 1.8 seconds. The W is Judgment. Launch a beam of immense energy at the targeted enemy, dealing 2,700 magical damage in a 7 meter radius after 1 second. It costs 2 charges. It has a 1.2 second cast time, and the cooldown is 26 seconds. Now the passive is Airborne, grants immunity to root and slow effects. Transforming while having 5 shift charges. Increase your movement speed by 60% for 3 seconds. Okay. So I think there's obvious uses for this. The W is a huge amount of damage. That is massive damage. I could see this being used in ZVZs for sort of bomb squad type situations. You transform. If you have the 5 charges, you also get a big movement speed. So you toss that with your run. You run in there and you blow stuff up. Let's test this guy out. Now we become Eagle. You look at this guy. Oh shoot. Hold on, let me try that again here. Let me try that again. We have 5 charges. We become Eagle. You throw this giant W that does massive damage. Absolutely massive damage. You can really spam the Q if you have charges as well. You can absolutely spam the Q if you have charges. All right. So that actually wraps up all the new shape-shifting weapons. I think my pick for the best one is the Blood Moon Staff. I think the Blood Moon Staff is absolutely insane. I do think the Eagle does a ton of damage, and we'll see it in large-scale content a whole bunch. I think the Imp is going to be crazy for certain content. I'm curious how this passive is going to make it fit in. I have a lot of questions about the tree. I don't know how strong this is going to be. I would say that's the one that I'm the most unsure about. I think the bear form is going to be pretty good for tanking. I think the golem's going to be pretty good for tanking. I mean, even the Panther seems pretty good if you're playing solo, if you're out in the open world, if you're in the mist, something like that. It seems like you're incredibly mobile, incredibly stealth. Like, the fact that you actually just get a passive stealth is insane. You can just be invisible forever. You can basically just sneak through zones infinitely with the Panther. So they all seem strong. All the new weapons seem very strong. I do think that's intended as well. I think the idea is that if you have a new weapon line coming out, you have to make them strong so that people play them, so they can actually start balancing based on that. If they made all the weapons come out weak, then no one would play them and we wouldn't figure out how they fit into the meta. But all these new weapons are very cool. They're very interesting. They all seem pretty strong, and I think we're going to see them a ton. I expect a lot of content when they're released will be just Shapeshifter versus Shapeshifter. They did give us a release date as well. So October 16th is what we're waiting for to try out these new weapons. I think we're all very excited. I can't wait till then.